All right. The other day I experienced a synchronicity, and I experience synchronicities a lot. And it's I'm not going to say it's an everyday occurrence, but it happens so much more often than you think it would happen. Where two things that seem to be completely unrelated suddenly come together, and sometimes it's in a way that's just sort of like you shrug your shoulders and say, well, that's interesting. And other times it's like, wow, oh my gosh, how could that be? How could that have happened like that? I just read a story about a girl in England who put a message in a balloon, and let the balloon go, and it traveled X number of miles for coming down to Earth again, and there was a message in it giving her address, saying, if you found this, write to me. I don't know how long ago this happened, whether this was before email or whatever, but it wound up that the person who found her email was somebody with her exact name, and then it turned out that they had, besides having the same name, and it wasn't like a name that's extremely common, right? If her name was the female equivalent of Joe Smith, then it would have been just like, okay, well that's interesting, but there's a lot of Joe Smiths out there. But it wasn't like that. It was a much more unusual name, and the girl who found the note shared not only her name but a whole bunch of other things. They had like a whole bunch of things in common, and it was just this crazy sort of coincidence. And that's what I would call a coincidence that's not a coincidence. That's a coincidence that's synchronous or synchronous, that shows some kind of hidden order to things. What it is exactly, what it indicates, what it points to, is something I don't claim to know, except maybe that we're all in God's hands. I wouldn't want to stray too far beyond that as far as interpreting it. But I think if your interpretation is, so what, it's just a coincidence, and you're just a complete stubborn materialist about it, I think that's extremely short-sighted, and you're not really the smartest person in the room that you think you are when you have that kind of response. You're closing your eyes to some significant things that you should be paying attention to. But anyway, let me continue with my own synchronicity from the other day. Well, that, first of all, the synchronicity that this story recalled reminded me of a time when I don't know if I've talked about this before on video, but there was a time when when my kids were younger, and we were out on a playground together where there were a lot of other kids, and it was a playground at the mall, and so they were running around and having fun and doing what kids do, and then at some point we heard, or the kids heard somebody, and my kids' names are Hannah and Soren. My daughter's name is Hannah. She's the eldest, and my son's name is Soren. He's 3 years younger. So my wife at the time was the one who came up with the name Hannah, and of course I was the one who wanted to name when we found out we were having a boy, we wanted to name him Soren, after Soren Kierkegaard, one of my favorite philosophers and writers. So Hannah and Soren, that's a pretty unusual name grouping, but it turned out that at this playground we somehow found out that there was another couple there who had 2 kids, and their names were Hannah and Soren. And Hannah was the oldest by about 3 years. And I would never, before that incident, I would have never have thought that you'd find parents who had 2 kids with those 2 names. You know, specifically Soren. I don't know how many American boys are named Soren. I think it's pretty common probably in Denmark, but in America it's not at all common. And that was another thing where it's like, wow, you know, this is interesting. And it turned out I think the dad in that family also was fond of Kierkegaard, and maybe had been to divinity school or something for a time, and that was why he was fond of the name Soren, and that's how his son got to be named Soren. So there were 2 Hannah and Soren. There were 2 pairs of Hannah and Soren at this playground, which you wouldn't have thought would be likely. You would think that would be very, very far from being likely. All right, so finally bringing it to the present. I was thinking, I was running errands, I was doing things that needed to get done, and sometimes your mind just wanders. You know how it is. If you have an internal monologue, your mind wanders and you think about things, and for no particular reason, or maybe for some reason that you're not sure of. And I remembered thinking about how somebody had, in some thread on social media somewhere, had mentioned something that referenced King of the Hill, the show King of the Hill. And I had responded with, I don't know why, I don't know how it was appropriate or clever at the time, or if it was, but I think I thought it was at the time. I responded on the thread with the comment, "The boy ain't right." And I was thinking about that. I was thinking about what was that all about? Why did I write "The boy ain't right"? And I'd forgotten. I'd lost my memory of what the thread was all about and why I had chosen to. It seemed like it was maybe tangentially about King of the Hill. It made some kind of reference to King of the show King of the Hill. But in any case, that was my contribution to the thread, right? Typing in "The boy ain't right," and I was thinking about that. I was thinking, "The boy ain't right. The boy ain't right." And I turned to my left, just to look around, and I saw a man wearing a T-shirt, and the T-shirt was King of the Hill themed, and it's on it were the words, "The boy ain't right." And I just thought to myself, oh man. Now again, I have no idea what that means, except that we're all in the hands of God, and maybe that's the only thing we should really take from synchronicity, is that there is an order to things, even if it's something that we don't always know about, that don't always understand. But that was my most recently experienced synchronicity, and I wanted to just share it with y'all.